Hi, I'm Veronica, foster mom, back with you. Hopefully you had a chance to watch the intro video because that kind of lays the foundation for all of the videos that will come after it, specifically looking at the children that have been placed in their homes and telling their stories. So this is actually the first of the Chronicles, and I'm going to talk about our very first placement. So about 4 years ago, 2019, we received our first placement, 2 little boys. I'm actually going to back up because in order to tell a couple of the funny stories, I have to kind of lay the backstory. So after my husband and I were certified, we received a call from placement asking if we would take a sibling group. And so they had, I believe, about 3 different sibling groups, ranging anywhere from 2 to 3 children to 4 children. And so they went down the list telling us, they gave us the last names and they told us about each child, their age, if they had any behaviors or medical issues or challenges. And they got to this one particular family, and there were 4 children, and we were told that one of them had an issue, had a couple of issues. Number one, they were a picky eater, only ate, like junk food. And then the other issue was they were kind of rough with animals. So, and as a matter of fact, they may have even used the word abusive towards animals. And so at the time, my husband and I had a mini Yorkie, so a little tiny doggy. And I am health conscious. Now, I'm not like a health fanatic where, but I do try to eat balanced diet, and one of our home rules is that we eat vegetables with our lunch and dinner. And so I told placement that I did not want that sibling group because I felt that it would be too much of a challenge for us, with it being our first time having foster children placed with us. So declined them. I had said yes to another sibling group, and then hung up the phone, and I was super excited, and I ran to my husband and I said, hey, yeah, I accepted this placement. They're gonna bring the children to us later today. And he was like, wait, did you forget that you have to go out of town next week for work? He's like, we cannot take children right now. You are gonna be gone. So I was like, oh my gosh, it totally slipped my mind. So I had to call placement back and say, hey, sorry, can't take those children. I have this work trip. When I come back, I'll let you know, and then we can take them. And so they explained to me, they said that, it doesn't work that way. Like, because we declined, they actually keep going down the list with other foster families to find a placement for those children. So they said, well, when you come back, then we'll tell you who is available. We'll see if those children still are available. So I said, okay, fine. I went on my work trip, came back, and then, a couple of days later, got settled in, called placement and say, hey, who do you have available? And they said, well, we have two little boys. And so I was like, any major issues? And they were like, no. He said, it's some minor issues, but nothing major. So I'm like, awesome. Okay, bring them here. We're ready. And so they brought these 2 little boys to our home. A few hours later, we get a knock at the door. There's the DCS caseworker and these 2 little boys, and their eyes were like this big. Like, they just so cute, but you could tell just kind of like, just kind of dazed, what's going on here. I will point out that it may have had something to do with race. I obviously am a Black woman. These little boys were white boys, and so that may have had something to do with it. I don't know. And I hope, just for everyone's awareness, I usually just use the terms Black and white. I don't use African American and Caucasian. Hope that doesn't offend anyone. Just side note there. So anyways, so these two children come into our home, and we acclimate them, show them their rooms, because we have one of our guest rooms has 2 twin beds in it, and I had made it up for them, have these robot bed sheets, and help them get unpacked and get settled in. And so I'm going to refer to them as E and L. So as I mentioned in the intro video, I won't be sharing any of my foster children's names. I'll refer to them by initial. And so 2 little boys, E and L, super sweet. They have my heart to this day. These little boys have my heart. They were really drawn to me as the mother figure. Their mom, based on the back, because as you have a child, a foster child in your home, you'll get to learn their story, and you'll know what issues their parents are dealing with and things like that. And there's periodic meetings where the parents, the foster parents, the caseworkers, the attorneys, and all of that, therapists, and all of us will have what's called a child and family team meeting. So based on what I learned, over their time with us, mom was an addict, struggling, but super sweet woman, like, and smart. Like when she was not using, she was, she was so great with the boys. She would have visits with them, and she would interact with them, and just talking to her, like, very intelligent. Just an unfortunate situation with her and her addiction. Dad struggled with homelessness and keep getting and maintaining a job. And so when the children were found, they were living in the truck with Dad. So going back to E and L, so during their time with us, just in bonding with them, just found out that L was a very picky eater. Like, he refused to eat a lot of the meals I served. Just it was a struggle. And then he also, as I mentioned, my husband and I had a mini Yorkie. He also, would try to kick the dog, try to push the dog down the steps, just all this stuff. And I just remember at night, and some of you know where this is going. I just remember at night sitting with my husband thinking, oh my gosh, he's such a picky eater, and he's not good with the dog. And then it just dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute, picky eater, abusive to animals. And I ran back to my notepad and flipped back to when I got that initial call from placement. And sure enough, these little boys, E and L, were 2 of the sibling group that I had initially been offered and had declined because I thought it would be too much for me. So long story short, I will tell you that they were such a blessing. We did bond, great connection. Had I known up front some of the issues, I would have declined them. So I'm kind of thankful that I didn't know those issues up front, because it's almost like the instance, and this doesn't always happen, but it does happen a lot of times, where you see something on paper and it may look bad and you think you can't do it. But then once you step out on faith and you start working the process, and we pulled in resources, it really was a family effort, team effort, and we know that we had a positive impact on those little boys' lives. Now, I did mention they were very, very attached to me, again, because mom was an addict, so she was in and out of their lives, not a consistent or a positive. She couldn't be a positive, consistent figure in their lives, so they really were drawn to me. Not so much to my husband. They didn't really bond or connect very much. But as far as, so just some of their issues, so E dealt with impulse control. L had some potty issues. But both boys dealt with separation anxiety, specifically as it came to me. So if they knew I was leaving to, let's say, run to the grocery store, and I could be gone 20 minutes maybe, not a long period of time. They ended up fighting or yelling or doing something just out of the norm. So my husband recognized that. He was like, hey, whenever you leave, these boys are like, they get anxious. They're constantly asking, when's she coming back? Where is she? So I really had to just be a consistent figure in their life, but also to reassure them that I was going to be there for them. But at the same time, I couldn't be with them 24/7 with these two. They were young, but they were old enough to where they should have some independence. So I couldn't have them joined at my hip 24/7. As I said before, I work full time and I had to cook. I had to maintain a household, as well as my own personal time. So what I started doing was, I set them on a timer and I had to teach them. I said, okay, you guys are going to go to your room. You are going to play and you're not going to come and look for me. You're going to play nicely. You're not going to fight. You're not going to yell. You're not going to try to jump off the bed or whatever, anything crazy. You're going to sit down and play. And I said, we're going to start off, and I'm looking down because I actually looked at a watch. I said, we're going to do it for 15 minutes. And that's the way we started. And so they had 15 minutes. They couldn't come look for me. They couldn't, and then at the end of that 15 minutes, I called them to me. I said, hey, I'm still here. They saw that I was still there. Because prior to this, it was constantly like every minute or so, hey, look at what I drew, or, hey, what are you doing? Or, hey, just random things. And that I knew was not, typical for their age. Now, maybe a toddler, but they were not toddlers. And so I started out with 15 minutes, and then I increased it to 20, and then I increased it to 30. And then eventually they got up to about 40 minutes where they could occupy their time, do something independently, and then they knew they could then come back and see Miss Veronica. They originally started off calling me Miss Veronica. At some point, they did start calling me Mom. So that was one of the things I had to teach them. Had to do a lot of teaching with these beautiful boys. So I had to teach them how to eat with a fork. And I have to point out, I think at this point they were like 7 and 8 years old. It was very unfortunate, but they were used to eating, finger foods, pizza rolls and the little sandwich thingies, like just a lot of the microwavable convenience foods that our family does not eat. We eat, meals. I have a protein and then a carb and then some veggies. And with my picky eater, again, he had this diet that was not healthy, was not good to sustain long term. So what I did was I told him, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to find a vegetable that you like, because his thing was, I don't like it. And then I'll ask, well, have you ever tried it? And then his answer would be, well, no, or I don't think so, or whatever. And I said, well, you can't say you don't like it if you've never tried it. Okay. So I said, you need to at least taste it. And if you don't like it, that's okay. But I made him a little sampler platter, and I put like a little bit of spinach, some peas, a little bit of broccoli, some romaine lettuce, just different veggies on this plate. And I said, I need you to try each of these. Just take a bite. If you don't like it, you don't have to eat it again. I said, but what I need you to do is find at least one of these on this plate that you can eat. And then that's going to be your vegetable until you are until your taste can expand a little more to start liking other ones. And the other motivation was, in our house rule is, if you don't eat your vegetables, you don't get dessert. Now, obviously, I don't force children to eat. And I also don't force children to clean their plates. I know parents have differing views on that, but I think forcing them to eat everything on their plate encourages overeating. So I teach them to eat until they're full. But the rule is you do have to eat your vegetables. You don't have to eat all of your meat. You don't have to eat all of whatever your other side is, whether it's mashed potatoes or whatever. But you do have to eat all of your green vegetables. So, and the fact that he couldn't get dessert if he didn't eat his vegetables, that was motivation for him to at least try these vegetables. And I mean, I know it's to me, it surprised me because usually children don't like broccoli, but he actually ended up liking broccoli. He liked broccoli and he liked spinach. And so those were his two veggies that he would have every night until he kind of expanded, and then he realized, hey, I like salad if I have a little dressing on it, you know. And I would put like carrots and cucumber on and some red cabbage in his salad. And then yeah, just over time he started expanding and he was eating vegetables. So a lot of quick wins with these, or I can't say quick wins, they weren't quick. They occurred over several months. And E and L were with us for about 1 year. And I will actually probably create a part 2 to this video because I'm looking at the time and I see this actually lasted a little longer than I had anticipated. But I think it's important to share their story. And so I will come back with a part 2 to tell you more about our first placement, those two sweet little boys, E and L.